Alright, so this is Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster on Steam. I'm just going to go right off the bat. I just want it to be perfectly crystal clear to everyone. I do not support this at all. I bought Final Fantasy and that's it, just so we could look at it so you guys can make an informed decision on whether or not you want to purchase it. I will not be purchasing anything else other than the first game for now. I might buy 3 in the future because it's the first time that the 2D version has come to the States officially. But I don't plan on buying any of these for several reasons. First of all, they're not on console and they should be. Second of all, it seems like Square Enix put the absolute least amount of effort into this as they possibly could have. Most of what I've heard is that they're just like ports of the versions we didn't want. Like this is a port of the GBA version, but it's not exactly, because it's the mobile version that they just ported over. Most of them are just the mobile games that they're like porting to Steam so that it can be mobile and Steam. And I also really do not support them releasing only the first 3 games, but having a bundle for $75, you can buy all of them, but you only get the first 3 because the next 3 aren't out yet. So you're basically just handing your money over for the promise that you'll eventually get 4, 5, and 6. That's outrageous. I can understand if it's a new game, like maybe Destiny 2 comes out and they're like, hey, buy it now, and then there's going to be expansions later. But these are ancient video games. These are NES games and Super NES games. There's absolutely no reason why they should be charging $75 when it's not finished. Just wait until it's finished. Just finish the last 3 games and then sell it for $75. Who wants to spend $75 for 3 NES games and the promise of 3 more SNES games later? That's ridiculous. Just finish them. So I don't support that at all. The reason we're playing this now is just to give you guys an informed decision if you are wanting to purchase these or just wanted to see what they're all about. We're going to take a look at just the first Final Fantasy. First of all, it needs to be said, this font is awful. Just awful. It looks worse than the NES font. It hurts my eyes. It's like Calibri. It's like squished Calibri. I don't understand who thought that would be good, but it's not. It's terrible, and I hate it. I hope the whole game isn't like that. Can I type this? Great. Sure. So this was $10. But it's going to be $12, I think. And then Final Fantasy 3 is more money. It's like $15, which is just, why is it more? I know why it's more, because people want 3 more than they want 1 and 2, so they figured they could make it more expensive. But just make them all $10. Like, why is 3 more expensive? This just reeks. It's just absolute reeks of just taking advantage of the fan base. This is the GBA version, ported to mobile, ported to Steam. And they want us to pay $75 for them. It's just bad. So anyways, this is a new cutscene. I'm not super familiar with the GBA version, but I don't think this cutscene is even in the GBA version. I think this is brand new. You know, looks like they spent a few minutes on it. It's got text and scrolling screens. Pretty neat. Sorry, I don't mean to be so negative, because honestly, if you've never played the games, this is a great way to get into them. I think for $75 to buy all of them when they're actually released would be pretty worth it if you've never played any of them. But just as a fan, it's just so frustrating to see stuff like this when we still don't have all 6 games easily playable on a console. And they spend their time doing crap like this instead. All I want is 1 through 6 playable on a console. Just 1 through 6 as a digital download on PS5, and it's just straight up the ports of the original, even if it's just the PlayStation games, but even better, the NES versions. That's all I want. I don't think anyone wants all of this fluff and nonsense. We just want a port of the console versions we can play, so you don't have to hunt down Final Fantasy III on Super Nintendo, or a fan-made version of Final Fantasy III, so that you don't have to play the DS version. Okay, so anyways, enough of my rant. So, that's all great. The one thing we do have to say that I've heard from the reviews is that all the music is redone and sounds really good. And I agree. Sounds pretty great. Unfortunately, as I expected, there's no way to play the original music. Which just... Ugh. It makes me so upset. They release these as like... They try to make it sound like they're praising the old games, but they're not. They just want... They just make all this stuff for people that aren't even fans of the series. The graphic display classic... It isn't classic graphics. It's burn your retinas on this blurry scanline mess. What is this? This isn't scan lines. This is burn my retinas out of my brain. What? Hello? No one's playing it like this. No, nobody is playing this. Why even include it? Good lord. So that's useless. Can't change the music to the original music. You're forced to the remastered music. Which, if they did it for Final Fantasy X, why can't they do it for these? The options are alright. At least you can turn off auto battle. Great. This is all new equipment menu and everything, so if you're wanting the original equip menu, this ain't it. What else is there to say? We got a pretty neat map. Very detailed map. Again, very good music. God, this text is awful. Just awful. I can't imagine playing the entirety of Final Fantasy VI reading this. I just can't. It just looks so bad. I would rather the NES version. Truly. Yep, there's mini-maps as well. Which is kind of nice. Let's get into a battle. Yeet. What? Alright. Music sounds great, but man, does not give me that retro Final Fantasy feel, that's for sure. But it's dope. It is definitely dope. That's what the scan lines are for. I bet you the text is a lot easier to read with the scan lines. Hold on. That, you got a good point. I think this is the way to read the text. Yeah. See, now I was wrong. I was all wrong. Now it all makes sense. Now it's so much better. I kind of wonder, this is kind of a side rant, but I kind of wonder why the scanline thing is such a big thing. I don't get it. I understand maybe like the Sonic Genesis collection, why that has scan lines, but like, who is playing this in scan lines? Who's playing this with the new orchestrated soundtrack? Like, this modern sounding remix of the battle, but then with the scan lines. Like, why? Who would do this? And it's not, it doesn't look like scan lines. It's way too blurry. Okay, let me turn that off before I die. Let's see the auto battle. Start, stop, auto battle. Wait, what? X? Oh, Xbox controls. So here's the auto battle. Because it's a mobile game, it has to have auto battle. You know what also ticks me off, if I'm going to be honest? They spent all this time trying to censor Final Fantasy VIII when the Final Fantasy VIII remaster came out, and they didn't censor the white mage flipping us off when we win a battle. Hello, Square? If you're gonna censor Siren, why we still got the middle finger white mage? Hello? You guys not play your own game or what? Extra space below the list. Oh, yeah. Well, that's fine. I mean, they got so much real estate, you might as well do something with it. But here's my issue. They have all this screen real estate, and they updated all the menus and stuff, but you still have to hit left and right to see defend and flee. Was there not a better way to do that? Like, is that really necessary? Is this the Japanese version? Because I can't read the text. Yikes. Okay, what else? I heard there's a new shop menu. Like, well, all this is new. Like, this was not in the original. In the original, you couldn't go into shops. So they changed that to be similar to the other ones. Which, I don't know. Like, sure, I guess. I don't know. In the original, you just walked up to the store and bought stuff. I don't see why it's necessary to walk in. Like, was someone angry that they couldn't walk in to shops in the first one? Is that something that people were really worried about? Any other changes, I think, are mostly just GBA changes. Like, a lot of the bugs are fixed, and like some of the quality of life stuff were just changes they made in the GBA version. I mean, I hate all of these menus. It's not even just the text, it's like just all of it just looks ugly, in my opinion. I would just prefer the NES menus, or even the Game Boy menus. So what do we think? I mean, I think I'm sticking to what I said before, in that if you've never played any of these games before, and you're not the type of person that's going to go out and buy an NES so you can play Final Fantasy 1 the legit way, then this is a good way to experience just what the games are about, right? I'm not trying to say it's like a garbage video game in its own right. For $10 to experience the original Final Fantasy with decent graphics and decent menus is definitely worth it. But for fans of the series, which is kind of who this was targeted towards, This is kind of a waste. True, honestly. I think it's kind of a waste. The music is pretty good. I like the remasters. But for someone that wants to play the games even remotely the way they were meant to be played way back when, this just ain't really worth it. You might as well get the GBA port. If you haven't played the games in a while and you just want to experience the stories again or whatever, like, sure. And I've always kind of made the argument that, you know, like with the Final Fantasy VII Remake, for example, if you want to play the original is always there. So we should look at this as like a compliment to the original, not the original, you know? And in that way, sure, it's fine. But I'm having a hard time with just the potential this had and what it actually is frustrating to me. If you were gonna go the extra mile to redo the menus and the music and all that, it could have been done much better. Instead, they did just enough to make it passable and left it at that. Which just screams like scam to me. Just screams, let's get more money out of the Final Fantasy fan base to me. I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but if you're gonna remake Final Fantasy 1 through 6 or remaster it, then do it right. This is not right. This is the bare minimum. This is the least they could have possibly done. It's, let's make a mobile version with Calibri text and giant blocky menus and just plaster it on Steam and not even take the time to put it on console. And also, it should be noted that Square had some tweet or something that said, if enough people ask for it to be on console, we'll put it on console. Which, quick message to Square Enix, if you're listening, screw you, just put it on console. It shouldn't be up to us. We're not the game developers, you are. If it should be on console, just put it on freaking console. I don't understand why developers do this. If you guys want it, be sure to tweet at us. No, just put it on console because it should be on freaking console. What kind of stupid... Who's, you know... You know, I hate when companies do stuff like that. Like, no, you know it should be on console. You just want a bunch of people to tweet at you. So, no, screw that. You know it should be on console. The games are originally on console. Just put it on console. Man, do I have any, I don't have anything else to say. Truthfully, I just have nothing else to say. This is just the absolute bare minimum they could possibly get away with to say it's a remaster. I think if you're looking to play the games and you're never going to play the originals, this might be worth it, but not for 75 bucks. Because they did not put 75 bucks worth of work into it, you know? It's just... They just redid the sprites and made some crappy menus. And redid the music. It's actually more than 75 bucks. It's 75 bucks if you buy it now, when 4, 5, and 6 aren't even out yet. So you get a discount if you're trusting them that 4, 5, and 6 will be decent enough to be worth 75 bucks. Which is just blows my mind that companies can do that. No other industry does that happen. No other industry do you buy a fridge for 300 bucks, but it just comes with the fridge, and they're like, we'll send the freezer later, but give us all the money now. Like, if you buy the fridge now for the full price, we'll send you the freezer in like 4 months, and it may or may not be what you want. And like I said, I can understand with a game that's more of a service type game like Destiny or Call of Duty, where it's like you buy Call of Duty for $70 with the understanding you're going to have several seasons of content. But these games were made in 1990. No one's waiting around for 4, 5, and 6 to come out. Just finish it and then sell it. It's not like this is a cutting-edge PS5 game and they got it out because the PS5 just came out. They could have waited any amount of time. They could have waited any amount of time to release these, but they chose to announce it during E3 so that they have something to talk about at E3, because what else were they going to talk about? Freaking Paradise, Final Fantasy Paradise Lost in Chaos? So they announced this so they have something to talk about, and then they released the first 3 and they're like, we'll get to the other ones, but give us $75. But we'll get to the other ones, but just give us the $75. So it just screams taking advantage of the Final Fantasy fan base, which they've done many times. And this is just yet another. They do not have a release date for 4 and 6. Or 4, 5, and 6. It just says 2021, so it could be December. Who knows? They don't even say. They don't say when they're coming out. The Steam page, when it first released, the description was a copy and paste from Final Fantasy IV for Final Fantasy 4, 5, and 6. So when you looked up Final Fantasy 6, it said the 4th in the installment. So someone took about 3 seconds to just Control V that. And apparently they heard about that when I said something about that in my, I think it was my Final Fantasy 6 playthrough. And apparently word got to Square because they fixed it. Now it's 4, 5, and 6 corrected. And what frustrates me is that I don't even want them to do much work. I don't want them to go through and remaster all of the sprites and redo the soundtrack and everything. I just want 1 through 6 ported to a console and playable. That's all I want. All I want is Final Fantasy Legacy Collection. That's all I'm asking. Every other freaking video game franchise in the universe, from Jak and Daxter to Ratchet and Clank to Mega Man, they all have these collections that are just the games, and that's it. With all of the lag and all of the glitches and all of the bugs, everything. They're just straight ports, and they sell like hotcakes. Mega Man Legacy Collection 1 and 2 and X Collections and ZX Collections all sold amazing because people want the original games. They don't want this. You know, this is a very small subset of people that are never going to buy an NES and play the original, but would like to experience it in some kind of modern way, and they'll purchase this for $10 and probably get $10 out of it. But for the vast majority of Final Fantasy fans, this is useless. No one wants to play Final Fantasy 1 on Steam with updated graphics. They want to play the original on NES, or the original on PS5, or the original on mobile, or the original on Steam. And ever since they've started remaking the Final Fantasy games, it's always got to be, oh, it's Final Fantasy 6 on Steam, but it's got updated everything. Or it's Final Fantasy 3, but it's 3D and on DS now. They can't just make a legacy collection of the games. And I'm telling you, every single time they announce something like this, the whole fan base gets super excited and tweets at Square and says, I really hope it's the first 6 games in their original forms. And it never is, and I don't see how Square doesn't see that. I just don't understand. I don't know how they don't see that. I don't know how this isn't both a remaster and the originals. Why can't I go into the menu and select original graphics or original music? At the very least, the music. They did that with 10. Why can't I select the original music? My dream, ever since I started doing Final Fantathon, is that they would do something like this, but allow you to pick the original graphics and original music and original style of the game and have both, you know? But I would be happy with just a straight up Legacy collection. Just a straight up Mega Man Legacy collection, but it's Final Fantasy. And that's all you just pick 1 through 6. And if they really wanted to be super lazy about it, they could literally just have the PS1 versions. Just the PS1 version of 1 and 2, the PS1 version of 4 and 6, and then you would have to do something like this for 3, which no one would complain if you redid 3, because 3 never came out here originally. So if you did some kind of remaster for 3, it would be at least something we could play, right? And just release those, because those already exist on the PS3 store, which they tried to shut down, and people said don't. But they exist on the PS3 store already. The PS1 collections. So why is it so hard just to put them on PS4? You know, that's my dream, and that's what some people want, but not everyone wants. And I understand that. But taking away what the hardcore fan base wants and what I want, and just looking at this as its own thing, it's okay. But for one, why is it not on console? The original games were on console. There's no reason why this should be mobile and Steam only. 2, let us pick the original music. No reason why we shouldn't be able to. 3, the font is awful. Change it. Put in just any kind, like, if you want to just have options to change the font, fine. But for the love of God, just anything at all to make the font even remotely readable. And that's about it. The music sounds good. The maps are nice. Graphics are okay. I still don't really... I mean, I don't know about you guys, but this just doesn't impress me. Like, when they said Pixel Remaster, I thought a lot of things. This just isn't... This ain't doing it for me. It looks like a mixture of, like, the original sprites retouched, but not really, because they kind of redid a lot of them. I maybe would have preferred something like Final Fantasy VII Steam, where it is the original models, and they just touched them up. But, like, especially the battle just looks totally different. And I just don't think it really looks that great. I mean... I don't know. It just doesn't look that great. It's like they tried to make it old. You know, the trees are all pixelated. I say just go all the way and just make it look super great. Or make it look super pixelated. One or the other. This is like in the middle. I'm not a big fan of how they use the screen, because everything's so tiny. I haven't played enough to really gauge the difficulty, but I've heard that it's just the same as the GBA. So, I mean, it's still original Final Fantasy at its core. It's not like they dumbed it down or anything, or gave you cheats or anything. They gave you auto battle, but not cheats or anything. They do give you a run, which the left and right run looks like a frickin' Charlie Brown character running to kick a ball. So, I mean, in general, other than bug fixes and stuff, it is the original Final Fantasy gameplay-wise, for the most part. This is kind of an aside. I don't really care about it that much, but it always kind of annoys me when they don't have 99 save files for RPGs. Because, like, the old PS1 games had 99 files. And I remember, like, the original Kingdom Hearts had, like, 99 files. And, like, Kingdom Hearts 3 had, like, 3. I was like, what is this garbage? Why 3? You know RPG players like to keep multiple save files. And it's not like it takes up any space to have the option to have that many files. Alright, let's see some magic. Wow. At least the menus are nice. You know, they're well, you know, they control well. Also, I did want to say, before I forget, the game works with a PS4 controller, just straight plug-in. I didn't need to do any funky business. The only annoying thing is, I believe it's counting it as an Xbox controller. I have like Y and X instead of X, circle, square, triangle. But it did work plug and play. I have seen many... I've seen many, like, indie games made by one person that allows you to, like, in the game, you can set it to a PlayStation controller so that the buttons display correctly. And this one does not, so that's nice. I've seen so many Steam games do that, and for some reason, none of the AAA games I've played allow you to do that. It always just displays the Xbox controls. Anything else? Should we go to a cave or something? They actually do need to be careful as to where they put the enemies, because in Final Fantasy 1 you can have up to 9, I think. Which a lot of the later games, like 4 is the max. Or 6. But, OG Final Fantasy can have up to 9 enemies. Yeah, the damage numbers have like a cool pixelated font. I like that font. It might be a bit too hard to read if there were a lot of text, but... The fog effect... It's pretty HD. I don't know, there's just... This is more of an opinion thing. This isn't like... You know, this isn't my... part of my review of the game or anything. But just, in my opinion... I don't like this semi-remastered style. Yeah, here's the map. The map is basically just the screen. Like, it's so detailed, you can basically play the map. If it allowed you to, but it doesn't. Yeah, I just don't prefer this, like, half remastered, half not remastered. Either go crazy and make it, like, HD models running around in a 2D space, or just leave it, you know? I don't like this halfway there thing, me personally. I don't think this looks necessarily terrible, I think it could have been further in either direction. It either could have been more like the original, but just cleaned up, or they could have gone crazy and made it like, you know, HD chibi models running around in super detailed environments, but it's all 2D and has the same map structure. You know what I mean? So that's just my personal opinion. I still think this looks okay, but yeah. I hope, maybe, I don't know, maybe because this is Final Fantasy 1, they wanted to make it a bit less HDified, and maybe Final Fantasy 6, they go crazier with it. Not sure. We won't know until they release it, but, you know, put in your $75 now in the hopes that maybe Final Fantasy 6 will look better. Haha. Square Enix dev, probably. For now, I'm not supporting 3 games for $75. I'm not supporting the way that Square announced this for E3 early because they had to, and then quickly shoved it out without even, like, putting any care into the Steam screenshot. Apparently the Steam screenshots aren't even, like, accurate. The descriptions weren't accurate. This was just shoveled out as quickly as possible to make some extra money off of Final Fantasy fans, and I'm not supporting that. That's just not... That ain't it, you know? So... I don't appreciate this, but I will say it's worth it if you're never going to play the games in their original states and just want to experience the stories or just want to experience what the games are like. I think this is an okay supplement. I think, especially if you want to only play one of them, you know, if you only want to play Final Fantasy 3 or 6, you could just buy that and be pretty happy with your purchase. So, overall, I think it would be an okay purchase in the right circumstance, but for a Final Fantasy fan, a little bit of a waste of time. A little bit of a waste of potential, I think, is the key word. There was so much more potential that could have gone into this. They could have either had original ports of the original games, the way they were meant to be played, all together, or they could have gone crazy and had, like, extra dungeons and extra bosses and 3D models and just gone, like, nuts and really, like, gave us a reason to play the original Final Fantasies again. But instead, we have this weird hybrid where if you've played the originals, it's not really worth playing these. And if you haven't played the originals, these aren't really a good interpretation of what the originals truly are. So, yeah. That's my quick thoughts on it. Yeah, let's just, Can I quit? How do I quit? How do I get out? Help! I'm stuck in here forever. Seriously, I don't know how to get out. Oh, there we go. It's under configuration. Of course.